Okay, so today's the day. I'm gonna start working on building and finalizing my fly rig for all of next year with the Midnight. You have probably heard me talk about this if you are a fan of the channel. Starting in a couple of weeks, we're gonna go into rehearsals here in Atlanta, and then we leave pretty much directly from rehearsals and fly to China for the first show of a 3-week run, which will be 2 shows in China, Lollapalooza in India and Mumbai, and then 3 shows in Australia. And because we're doing so much travel and so much flying, the team has asked us all to travel super light. But this rig is gonna be used for more than just this upcoming tour. I've been working on this and planning this for a few weeks because I know whatever I build now is going to be sort of the light rig, the fly rig, the lightweight travel rig for anything that we need next year. So that's fly dates, festival stuff, anything where I'm not going to be able to bring the big rig. So before we jump in, this video is probably going to be relatively long, so check out the chapter markers down below if there's a specific thing that you're looking for. And I want to quickly thank the sponsor of today's video, which is Sweetwater. I needed some stuff to sort of get all of these things to work together, and one of the key components of the rig I also needed to get my hands on, and all of the stuff came from Sweetwater. Whether you're building a lightweight small fly rig like I am, or you're building your sort of dream rig out, Sweetwater has everything you need, from pedal boards and power supplies and patch cables to MIDI stuff and pedals, literally everything that you might need and more. If you're interested in any of the stuff that I'm using in my rig, I will have affiliate links in the description box down below. Those will all go to Sweetwater, and I earn a very small commission off of anything you buy through those links. It doesn't cost you any extra, and it goes a really long way in helping me out and keeping the channel going. So I greatly appreciate the support, and I want to thank Sweetwater for sponsoring today's video. So with all that out of the way, let's talk about the core idea behind this rig. So over the years, I have built and used fly rigs in several different ways. Everything from small pedal boards that were kind of designed to work with a variety of backline amps to straight up just modelers like the original Helix. And this rig is going to be somewhat different than anything I've done in the past. It needs to be flexible. It needs to be able to go from super lightweight, throw and go, very simple and very reliable, to slightly more complex. So my idea is to make it modular. So the first major component of the rig, the most crucial component, the thing everything else is built around, is the Helix Stadium XL. Okay, hold on just a second. So everything you've watched up until now, I filmed almost 3 weeks ago. And you may have noticed in the playing examples that I'm not actually playing the Helix Stadium, I'm playing my quad Cortex. And the reason for that is I decided to ditch the Helix Stadium XL. This is a real bummer because I have a lot of time and energy invested into building out sounds and presets in the Stadium XL. And to be honest, I really like the sounds that I'm getting out of the unit. But the firmware still has some issues. And I had been having some of these issues in my initial review process in the several weeks that I've owned the Stadium XL, but at that time I was on pre-release beta firmware, so I was expecting to have some issues. However, some core issues have sort of stayed through as I've gotten onto the main release firmware like 1.2. And the main issue that I'm having is around snapshots. Basically, my snapshots aren't saving the settings on certain amp blocks, or they're not recalling saved settings. And it's very intermittent, and it's hard to figure out which blocks have issues and which ones don't. I have to give a shout out to Eric Klein and his team at Line 6. They have been amazing in helping me sort of try and figure out these issues. And they've been able to take some of the problems I'm having and find the underlying issues and patch them in the firmware, which is great, but I just don't trust it. I think there's still some wrinkles that need to be ironed out here before I decide to take this on a run as my sort of only lifeline. I do still really like the Stadium XL, and I probably will be using it extensively next year, but I just don't think it's ready right now for what I'm about to do with the Midnight. So I decided to pivot, put this on the back burner, and build a small pedal board rig around my quad Cortex, which is what we're gonna do in today's video. Okay, so down here in the workshop, I've got the pedal board and everything laid out here. This little Temple audio board has seen a lot. I built it originally as a fly rig a few years ago, and it's been through several different iterations. And today I'm gonna strip it down back to its basics and get it built up specifically for this quad Cortex rig. So this is what it looks like currently. I'm gonna redo these side modules here. I've got some new ones from Sweetwater. Gonna add a power input on the side there, and then we're gonna take advantage of these two empty slots over here, plus this one. But yeah, I may even be able to ditch the Cioks power supply here. This thing's great, but I just don't need this much power, and it'll save a little weight. And I think I'll be able to mount the MIDI hub. Got the Strymon conduit. This is the same MIDI hub that XTS put on my main pedal board last year, and this thing is awesome. So I just got another one from Sweetwater. So before I start to mess with the layout, let's get this board stripped back to its starting place, and then we'll go from there. Okay, so the board is basically ready to go. I added a few more of these mods that Temple Audio does, just because I want to be able to have all of the I/O, the inputs and outputs from the quad Cortex, not on the quad Cortex. I want to be able to just plug into the side of the board for everything that I need and not have to be patching stuff, you know, on top of the board here or moving cables around. I want whatever's on the board to just stay rock solid. The hang up I'm having though is whether or not to add an auxiliary sort of extra effect. I've got the Zoya on here, but the reality is the smarter decision here is probably to just go as simple and easy as possible, which would mean ditching the Zoya and just routing all of the outputs and the effects loops to the side of the board so that I could potentially run the Synergy amp rig if I wanted to. Okay, so I don't need to worry about this right now. What I'm gonna go ahead and do next is wire up the stuff that I know I'm gonna want. Now I've got a bunch of leftover cabling from past pedal board builds, but I actually think I'm gonna fire up the soldering iron and make some cables to custom length here. So I got it wired up and then took it upstairs for a quick test and had all kinds of issues. So I've spent the last like 2 hours down here cleaning it up and making some new cables, and I think we're good to go. So this is it basically in its final form. So guitar goes into the pedal board, into the mood, which is going straight into input 1 of the quad Cortex. Quad Cortex is doing its quad Cortex-y thing. I have the Benson delay in one of the effects loops. I love this delay. It's just a vibey, analog, heavily modulated, really cool delay. And then the second effects loop is run here to this effects loop send and return on the side of the board. Now what that will allow me to do is run the Synergy amp rig. I don't know if I'm going to be able to bring it on this run or not because we're having to travel so light, but I'm going to try to bring it. So I keep talking about the Synergy amp system, but I haven't actually shown it yet. This is it. Contained in this rack are two different guitar amps with a power amplifier that's also tube driven, which can either be stereo running two different cabs or it can be mono. See, the initial idea with this was that the Helix would be the brains of the operation and effectively my pedal board, that I would use the Line 6 effects and the routing and everything to kind of create a hybrid setup with digital effects, MIDI switching, the snapshot recall, all that stuff, but actually have real tube amps on the road with me that I can fly with. Now, if you're not familiar with the Synergy system, effectively what it is are tube amps that have been condensed into these little modules, and they're the actual preamp circuits from the respective amps. So for example, right here, I've got loaded up a Tone King Imperial Mark II and a PV6505 module. And in this 1U rack, I have space for two different modules, and I can use MIDI to switch the channels. Each module has two channels, or switch between the actual amps. And then just below that, I have the power amp. Now, this is a fully tube-driven stereo power amp that fits in a 1U rack. And so with this system, I effectively have a stereo 2-amp channel switching rig that I can integrate into a modular setup, or I can use on its own. In this case, I've got the MIDI Verb 4 patched into the effects loop on the back of the Synergy system, and I can fly with it. And to me, as a pretty diehard tube amp guy, this is exciting. Now, the downside to this setup as it stands right now is weight. The power amp alone weighs 24 pounds, so this rack is going to be overweight limit for most flights, which means I would have to effectively pay an overage fee, or the band would have to pay an overage fee every time I wanted to fly with it. And given that this run is going to be so travel heavy and we're going to be on a lot of long haul and a lot of connecting flights, there's a pretty high chance that this rig would get lost somewhere or damaged, even though it's in a really stout SKB case that's designed to be flown with and checked. You'd be surprised at how effective baggage handlers are at destroying stuff. So I think, unfortunately, for this first run, I'm going to leave this at home and just travel light with the Quad Cortex board that I built. But when I have other fly dates that are less travel intensive, or I have a festival date that needs to be relatively throw and go and lightweight and easy to use, this system I think is going to prove very useful. And so that, combined with the MIDI processing through the conduit and all the effects and switching and presets in the Quad Cortex, means I have some flexibility. I've got options. But then I can also expand this too with the MIDI hub, with the conduit here, and connect other pedals, other processors, whatever I want that's MIDI channel switching on and off. And then I've got all the I/O here on this side of the board, which is not currently wired up except for the headphone out here and the capture out here. So as this is set up, I can use the Quad Cortex to capture directly from this board. I don't have to like patch anything in. It's all sort of set up how it needs to be. So let's take it back upstairs, give it one more test run, and hopefully be done with this project, because I've got to I got to keep shedding these tunes. So in my 15 plus years of playing guitar professionally, I have built dozens of different pedal boards and rigs. I think this is probably the most challenging. Not because the build itself was difficult. It's actually a very simple rig. It's mostly just the Quad Cortex with some power and MIDI options and a few basic outboard effects. No, this was difficult because I'm building a rig for a band I have not yet played in. As of right now, we're about a week and a half out from the first rehearsal, and that'll be my first time ever playing these songs with this group of musicians. And I've been shedding and I've been building tunes out, and I kind of know the vibe of what I'm going for. But until I actually get in the room with the people, I won't know whether or not these sounds are going to cut it or not. And to be honest, I wish we were doing something a little less travel intensive for the first run, where I could bring an actual rig, like my actual pedal board and an actual amp rig, instead of this lightweight fly system. You know, modelers are great. They're great tools, but I'm just not a modeler guy. See, the challenge I've been having in the last several weeks, both with the Helix and now with the Quad Cortex, is because there are so many different options, I'm finding myself spending a lot of time tweaking, because I'm always thinking, like, what if there's a better delay I could use here? What does this chorus sound like here? Yeah, I don't know if this preset's right for this song. Let me try this preset. And because I am the way that I am, probably because of my ADHD, I have spent so much time, wasted so much time going down these different rabbit trails of like, well, what does this sound? Does this sound work better for this solo? Or what if I tried this preset for this part of this song and then switched? It's just gotten to be too much for me. So I will be very excited come springtime when we have the big US tour, and we'll be traveling domestically, and I can bring my actual rig with me. But for now, the Quad Cortex sounds great. I do like where I'm at with the sounds that I've built. I think I've settled into like 3 or 4 different settings that I'm going to use for the whole set, and I'm pretty confident that this is going to do the job just fine. And as for the Synergy rig, I'm incredibly excited to try that out, but that's going to have to wait for its moment. For now, because we have to travel so light and we're going to be in and out of so many different airports, I'm just going to rely on this pedal board that I built. I'm going to carry it on the plane. I'm not even going to check it. Just trying to minimize the risk of something getting lost or damaged on this run. But as always, I would love to know your thoughts. What do you think about this rig? Once again, huge thanks to Sweetwater for sponsoring today's episode. Affiliate links to all of the gear, the pedal board, the mods, as well as the Synergy amp stuff, that will all be in the description box down below. If you purchase anything, even a pack of strings, through one of those links, I earn a very small commission, which helps me out in keeping this channel going, and it doesn't cost you any extra, and I greatly appreciate the support. Also, check out my video courses that are down there as well. We're running a special deal right now on the Tone course bundle, so more information on all that is in the description box down below. And come see the Midnight in 2026. I'll be out there, and you'll probably get to hear either this rig or maybe the main rig at some point next year. Thank you guys so much for watching. My name is Rhett Shull, and I will see you very soon, either on the next video or maybe at a live show.